So for this go around, I'm just going to do the two doors and the front bumper. And then once I have these finished and cured, I'll be able to get the doors mounted on the truck as well as the front bumper. And then when I get the rest of the pieces painted for the nose, I'll be able to get everything lined up exactly, especially the fender to this edge. So to start out with, I just need to wipe everything down with a good prep, and then I will use a tack cloth to tack it all off. Final result. The paint booth does a pretty good job. It's not awesome, but it's better than just painting in the garage. You see, it's kicked up some trash, but overall it's be fairly easy to buff out. There's a few specks here and there, but nothing major. There's only one that is really irritating. That kicked up on the back door. You can see that one. But again, it's got really good clear coat on it. It's got 3 coats, so it'll be easy to color sand and buff this trash out. If anybody would have guessed as to what all of this would have cost, I would be willing to bet nobody'd even come close. It's shocking how many pieces and how complicated the front end of this truck is. And what makes it even worse is the fact that the body shop that took this apart decided to keep all of this. For whatever reason, I'm sure it wasn't all damaged. Maybe the bumper was bent. But all of the sensors and all the wiring and all the nuts and bolts that goes into this, there's over 100 bolts that holds all of this together, and there's close to 40 or more parts that combines to make up all of this. That's not including the grill. That's just the bumper alone. I have about 12, 13 hours into this. I'll probably be close to 15 hours by the time I'm finished. That's $1,500 in typical shop time. The parts that are here, over $1,500 in parts. Yeah, $3,000 plus just the bumper alone. And materials, parts, and labor. Pretty amazing. And complicated. Just crazy how complicated all of it is. And when you don't have it to see from, to go back and reference to, there was just so much involved in putting all this together. And when I called Mopar, the attitude I got on the phone to help me put all this together for everything that was missing, they said, well, this is going to take a long time. This is going to take probably close to an hour to research all this. Yeah, well, thanks for the help. Enough of all the ranting and raving. It's a really good looking front end. I gotta give them that. One of the things that if you get into this project, you'll find out that when it comes to all the sensors, this truck came with the park sensors. Each one of the park sensors is different. So you have to verify the part number and the placement on the cable. So I'm going to have to really pay close attention to that so the computer knows where the sensor is. When it comes to the fog lights, I got the LED fog lights. It said it came with all the hardware. I assumed again, that meant it came with all the bolts and brackets to attach it to the bumper. Well, it didn't. There's several bolts that were missing, as well as the bracket. There's a bracket that goes on the end here. In the catalog, it shows the bracket. Well, this is just a plastic bracket that mounts to the metal bracket. So that wasn't very well explained. So I had to order that. Well, it said it came with the hardware, and it didn't. So there's 5 bolts on each side. So that's another 10 bolts now that I don't have. I was fortunate that the shop did throw in these tow bars, tow hoops, whatever you call these, as well as the bolts. These were really expensive bolts. I thought I was going to have to buy those. They were included. Power air dam that goes on the front. The end of this is broken off. This is another $300–400. So I'm going to fix it. It's just the mounting point where it mounts onto the frame that is broken, plastic. I'm sure I'll be able to rig up a way to mount that. So parts and pieces wise, you can see that's the power air dam that drops down under the bumper. That piece there, which is what mounts to the end of the frame rail, there's 7 parts to that. These mounting brackets and this piece are kind of the key to how the bumper all mounts. The fog light kit came with both of these plastic pieces. Well, I bought this bumper used on eBay. I paid as much for this bumper as I would for one buying it from the dealer, but it came with a few extra pieces. There's these 2 brackets that came with the bumper. So all total, like I say, I paid $300 for the bumper. I paid $200 to ship it. I got about probably $200–300 worth of parts that came with the bumper, so it made it worthwhile. Overall, I figure I probably saved about $400. Probably one of the things that I saved the most on was all the hardware that went to these pieces. There's so many bolts. I think there was probably 30 or 40 bolts alone that came with that bumper. I gotta hand it to the Mopar engineers and designers. They did a great job designing all this. These little T-bolts and nuts that hold all the plastic in. These pieces are the push pin plastic kind of rivet things, and then all the bolts here again. Before I can put all the inner structure together, I did realize that I need to put in all of the sensors. So I'll look at the part numbers now, at the sensors and the mounting pieces for those sensors, and then I can set up all the wiring. And then the wiring looks like it snaps into that reinforcing bar. Alright, well, I've been trying to decipher all the sensors for this thing, and the wiring. According to Mopar's diagram, I ordered the parts that were in the diagram, and I ordered the wiring harness. Mopar called me, the nice guy that's pulling the parts, and said, if I supply my VIN number, they'll make sure that these parts match my VIN. Awesome. So the wiring harness that I ordered, he let me know that, oh, that's the wrong one to your VIN number. So he got me the right one, and he changed all the sensors to be the right ones. None of it works. Each one of these sensors, luckily, has a fitment. It has a little prong so that the idea is you match the part number with the part number sensor, none of them match. Well, so I thought, well, hopefully they'll plug in. None of them plug in. Very frustrating. Now I'm going to spend more hours on something I've already spent 15 plus hours trying to decipher the sensors and having to go back and forth to the dealership. Yeah, it's pretty frustrating. I ended up just popping this apart to paint it. It wasn't very hard. I didn't break anything. Goes back together pretty simple. Just line up all the clips. It snaps together. Very nice. Now put the two ends on. Got a little bit of trash in it that I need to buff out, but pretty easy buff job. Grill-wise, it doesn't explain at all which piece goes together when. 3 pieces come in the kit. They all come separate, except for these bars. These bars are painted black, and they're installed. Since these 2 pieces weren't together, I'm assuming you put the painted part in first. So it's a good thing I put the grill in first. Wouldn't be able to get the screws in unless, actually it looks like the screws go all the way through. I'll test that first before I put the screws in. Yes, they do. The screws go all the way through. Ah, that's beautiful. This corner is the one that was broken off in shipping. Epoxied it on, put a brace behind it. That cured nicely. A few little screws in here. I'm assuming it's probably for this center grill emblem. More satisfying clicks. It looks like those screws will screw this together. I'm going to wait. I don't have the emblem. I'm not sure what happened to it. I thought I ordered it, but I can't find it. So I will hold off on putting those screws in. Well, had a good meeting at the dealership. At first the guy at the dealership was kind of acting like, well, I obviously don't know what I'm doing because all the part numbers were correct according to their books. So I just quietly, calmly said, try putting it together. I had all the pieces. I just didn't bring the bumper. All the sensors, the wiring, the pieces that attach to the plastic parts that attach to the bumper. You put the first one together. Click, click, click. See? A little cocky. See? It's easy. You just got to make sure everything lines up. So, all right, keep going. Trying to put the next one together. Didn't work. Tried the next one. Didn't work. Tried the next one. It didn't work either. So, out of the 6 sensors, there's 2 that worked. Well, that's what I found out. And I told him that. But of course, it was my fault at first. And then he was a little red in the face and a little embarrassed. Ate a little humble pie, we got it figured out. 2 different part numbers, same bumper. Go figure. He was stumped. He even admitted that this is probably the most complicated bumper out of all of the lineup, out of all of the cars that they have parts for. He admitted there was probably more than 150 parts just to this bumper alone, between fasteners, plastic pieces, wires, sensors, hardware to attach it to the truck. Yeah, it's a complicated piece, and just makes it that much worse when I don't have any of it to cross-reference to. It was all missing. But now we're off and running. I'll show you what I got. When the sensor comes in the box, it's primer, gray. So since my bumper is black, I'm just going to spray a light coat of self-etching primer in black that I have, and I think that'll work great. So I'll just wrap each one with a little bit of masking tape. And then I'll just kind of crimp over the edge just to protect the rest of it. Now just lightly spray over it. So these are the little attaching bolts, nuts and bolts, and they just slide in on the one side of all these plastic pieces, and they just snap in. A little satisfying click. And with the paint dry on these sensors, we'll put the rubber seal back in. It's kind of a rubber piece that holds it up tight against the sleeve, and then it just snaps in. Squeeze the plastic on it, and then there's 3 wire connectors right here. One to the fog light, one to this sensor, and one to this sensor. Snaps into place, and then a little keeper locks it. I've got all but one of the sensors today. I'll have to go back tomorrow for this last one. They didn't have it in stock. They're having it brought in from Denver for me, along with more bolts. I thought I had enough bolts to do all of this. He thought he'd given me enough bolts for all of this, but I was missing 6 of these special low profile, real thin head bolts. And then I'm missing 3 of these clip-ons, and they just snap on along these edges for the main mounting points. So those are coming in from Denver tomorrow as well.